I'm Mary Charlotte Safford, the coordinator of the Social Sciences, and on behalf of Western Piedmont Community College, I'd like to welcome students and visitors to our campus, and thank you for joining us as we celebrate Black History Month. Every February, we celebrate the many contributions that African Americans have made throughout the course of our history. In the past, unfortunately, these achievements were often ignored and left out of our history books. Now, however, these achievements are recognized and remembered, and in February, we celebrate them. In doing so, there's no better group to recognize and honor than the Tuskegee Airmen. These brave men were the first African Americans allowed to serve as pilots in our military. And during World War II, they faced not only the bullets and bombs of our enemies, but also the racism of many in the military establishment, as well as American society as a whole. When World War II began, our military was segregated, and opportunities for leadership roles for African American men were practically non-existent. President Roosevelt, however, ordered the Army Air Corps to train an all-black unit to become pilots and officers. They were trained at a segregated facility in Tuskegee, Alabama, hence the name Tuskegee Airmen. After rigorous training, these men were sent overseas as combat pilots. The skill and courage the Tuskegee Airmen displayed there, flying bomber escort and ground attack missions, led to their reputation as the most fearsome flying group in the war. The Tuskegee Airmen compiled an enviable record, destroying 251 enemy aircraft and winning more than 850 medals. And most impressively, the Tuskegee Airmen never lost a single bomber to enemy fire. In reverence and appreciation, the white bomber pilots called the Tuskegee Airmen Red Tail Angels. Red tail because of the distinctive red paint on the tails of their planes, and Major Shade informed me that his beautiful red jacket is also in remembrance of their airplanes. Largely because of the skill and courage displayed by the Tuskegee Airmen, our military was ordered to desegregate in 1948. Thus, the Tuskegee Airmen not only served their country bravely during World War II, but also helped pave the way for the integration of the American military and of our society as a whole. We are very honored today to have with us one of those Tuskegee Airmen, Major George Shade. Ms. Leslie McKesson, coordinator of the paralegal program, will introduce Major Shade. Thank you.
On a warm July day last year, my children and I were attending a historical gathering in my hometown of Lenore. As we watched the proceedings, we were approached by a very personable and well-spoken man who introduced himself as George Shade. We engaged in conversation, and I soon learned that Mr. Shade, a resident of my own hometown, had been a member of the historic Tuskegee Airmen. We must have stood on the sidewalk for about 30 minutes or more, as I was spellbound by the stories he told. I told Mr. Shade there on the spot that he had a message that more people needed to hear. And I asked if he would be so kind as to come to Western Piedmont during Black History Month to share some of his insights, and he most graciously consented. We are blessed to have living history among us this morning. I'm sure as you begin to listen to Mr. Shade's story, you will indeed be inspired by his testimonial and his inner strength, the strength we all must possess to rise above our own challenges in life. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great honor that I present to you Major George Shade.
Thanks for the fine introduction, Ms. McKesson. I hope you can understand what I'm trying to say. I have a cold. I consider myself a very, very fortunate as I tell people, it starts in the womb. From there, you get a production. During my years of being reared up, we were strictly disciplined. That's why we were successful in our endeavor. All the odds were against us, as you know why, that we were not qualified. We were genetically inferior. We did not have the intellect. But as I have stated, who were we? Started in the womb. We were either in college or we were college graduates that were selected for the program. Both military and civil, congressmen, senators, etc., were fighting us harder than what we fought in the war. But we had one pilot. That's our pilot up there. We believed in him. We had faith in him. We had prayer. We had God. So we couldn't be defeated. I'll always remember Burke County. I caught the Cheehaw Special train from here going to Alabama, along with Mr. Moore. He and I went down to Tuskegee at the same time. But unfortunately, he was drafted into the Army, and I remained there as a student. But I wanted to go back, take a couple of steps back. Why? I was always an adventurous type of a young man. I used to get these orange crates and make little model aircraft. And I'd go down to the bookstore, and they had their books on the aircraft and maintenance, etc. I'd buy them and read them. And I was always interested like that. So I remember one day my dad and I were down in the field putting out potato slips. And I looked up, I saw a mail plane flying over. And I asked my dad, I said, Daddy, he said, what? I said, do they have any colored people flying? He said, maybe one or two, but I don't think, not too many. I said, well, that's what I'd like to do, fly a plane. He said, well, after you fly the plane, he said, where are you going to get a job? I said, well, then I have to come later. But anyway, I had that in my mind because my mother and father both, very religious people, and educators that believed in education. Today, I'm one of the richest men on this earth. They look at me and say, what? I said, yeah. I have a mother that can relate, the same as I'm speaking, 104 years of age. She can tell you something happened to her when she was 3 years of age. I can't even remember what I done yesterday in comparison. And she relates this quite a bit. Firm believer in God. She was 3 years of age, and she was on the back porch at the old home place, the wraparound porch. The older people were sitting in the dining area, and they heard something splash. Well, back in those days, they used to catch rainwater and wash their clothes. And she looked over, and she thought she saw a little Helen, and she fell over in the barrel. And they ran out and shook up and down. I had a fellow ask me here a couple of weeks ago, said, how's your mother? I said, she's doing fine by the help of God. How's her mind? I said, can you tell me anything you've done when you were 3 years of age? He said, I can't. I said, she can. God has really blessed her. And I'm very proud of her. She is a jewel. To have that, God has given her the sight to see, the air to breathe. Her hearing's getting a little impaired, but she can hold you a one-on-one conversation. I think that's got to be a miracle of God. I like to go do a little shopping with him when I drive around. So I'm very proud of that. Now let's get back to Tuskegee. I'll tell you about my mother. You get another daddy or daddy-in-law, but you can't get but one mother. Be proud of her. She'll never hurt you. She'll protect you. So I remained at Tuskegee after Mr. Moore left. And I got enrolled into the civilian power training program. He knows where a molten field is. We had a dirt runway with 5 little Piper Cubs and 1 Wacko. But our chief flight instructor was Chief Charles Anderson. In 1934-5, he bought a little Piper Cub. After he bought the little Piper Cub, he didn't have anyone to teach him how to fly that little Piper Cub. The man upstairs taught him how to fly. And when he passed, about 6 years ago, he had the second highest number of flight hours in the world. He taught us what we were taught. And I give a lot of praise to him, along with our commanding officer, General Benjamin O. Davis. He was the first black grad of West Point. And for 4 years, General Davis ate by himself, slept by himself, and the only time he was spoken to that he could speak. So that means he was mentally and physically a man. His father was the first black brigadier general in the armed forces. And General Davis was a real leader. He should have been the valedictorian according to what I heard, but you know why he wasn't. But he was number 8 in his class to graduate, and that was a great honor in those days. The people who was really instrumental was like Walter White, president of NAACP, A. Philip Randolph, who was the president of the local union for the Porters Railway, and there were several. Dr. Frederick Patterson, the president of Tuskegee Institute, Roy Wilkins, one of the executives of the NAACP. There were several dignitaries that met with President Roosevelt, and it was the Army Air Force, which we never had blacks in the street before. And they knew we were going to war, and it was going to be a hard-fought battle. Well, he sent Mrs. Roosevelt down to Tuskegee. This is before the war even broke out, to evaluate our civilian pilot training program. You might have seen the movie of the Tuskegee Airman, but the world had come to an end for a Caucasian lady to be in the presence of N men. I was taking it like it is. They called Roosevelt up. So he said, well, if Eleanor says she's going to take a flight, she will fly. She did not fly with a student cadet. She took the flight with Chief Charles Anderson. They took off from Moultonfield to Ormond, Opelika, Nochapoka, Montgomery, and back to Moultonfield. Landed. She's escorted back to the campus. And that was one of the great getting up mornings at Tuskegee, to have a lady, a motherly type lady like Mrs. Roosevelt, to be in our presence. So she went back to Washington. She said, yes, Frank. I had the opportunity of seeing the cadets perform. And I took a flight with Chief Charles Anderson, a very knowledgeable man. And they're as well qualified to become to be pilots as anyone in the world. He did not hesitate to issue an executive order with all expediency to build the Tuskegee Army Flying School, which is some 10 miles out from Tuskegee itself, in Macon County. And I remember they worked around the clock, 7 days a week building it. The contract was awarded to McKesson & McKesson, the only black contractor from Nashville, Tennessee, and that was in 1941. And he beat the deadline in the development of the base. Well, the first class to come in was a class of 10, highly selected. I don't have to call you the names, I know them all. And out of the 10, 5 graduated. The second class of 10, 4 graduated. Third class of 10, 3 graduated. They were trying to prove the point that we were not qualified. So President Roosevelt sat down with representatives from Washington to monitor the program. Then all of a sudden, here come 15 cadets. There's 25 more, 35, 45. We're getting up to, we had a class of like 75 cadets coming in for training. If you saw the movie where we were given the test twice, we made more the second time. We made 100 on the first test, we made 150 on the second. And it was perfect. That was just a deal for them. But anyway, we endured the hardship. I can tell you the many experiences that we had to go through before going to Iran, North Africa. The first group to go was the 99th, followed up by the 332nd. 99 was under the command of General Benjamin O. Davis, and the 332nd was under the command of General Rollins. And they were well qualified. So as the war got really heated, the Germans were superior militarily. They had built for 25 years. But we as Americans, we had something they didn't have. I think we had God on our side. We had good people back in those days. We had God on our side, and if he had continued, he had taken most of Europe, all but England, and they were bombing them around the clock at night and day, and they were superior. And when the first group went over the 99th, they had them fly patrol. They told us, we didn't come here to fly patrol, we come here to combat. Now that we go back to the station, we go into combat. So then they decided to let them start flying escorts. Prior to that, in 1 week, they lost 627 crewmen flying B-17s because the 9th and 15th Air Force escorts nerves were shattered. Nobody wanted to die, but they had the best aircraft, the ME-109s, they had the range, the firepower, the maneuverability of the aircraft, and they had something else on us also. They had infiltrated into our squadrons German sympathizers, and they knew exactly how many aircraft, the capabilities, the range, what had they passed back to the German headquarters. But where we were different, we knew all of our instructors, they were most of them white at that time, and we knew who they were. So therefore they couldn't penetrate the black birds with the red tail. So when they did find out that we were there, we had to show them we were there. Our job, orders from Commanding General Benjamin O. Davis, you become to be a Hebrew eventually, either alive or dead one. Stay with the bombers. We have 2 backup groups with the 332nd in behind you. If you attack people, attack them back. We didn't lose one bomber. We lost 98 pilots, 29 prisoners of war. And we had to prove that this is just as much my country as it is yours. We're all Americans. If they had come over here, they didn't look at pigmentation skin. You were American, you were eliminated. So we fought a gallant battle. We had some good men. We lost some good men. And just like a lot of you never heard of this thing, it's the 769th Tank Corps was in the Battle of the Bulge. They were all black. They had established terrific records. But sometimes you don't get the credit here on earth, you get it by God. That's the way they give it to you. And today we have 5 chapters of the Tuskegee Airman, and I'm a member of the one in Atlanta. And I'm proud to be from North Carolina. And I must say this about North Carolina. 95% of the pilots at that time attended black colleges. And they were supported by, like, some of them by the Presbyterian Church or the Methodist Church, which gave us an opportunity we never had before to get into higher schools of learning. Now look at these kids today. And I'd say the vocational schools is one of the best programs that's ever been established. Everyone can't be a lawyer, a doctor. We need carpenters, bricklayers, they make money. Auto body mechanics. Would you believe I went back to school? I made the dean's list 3 times. Caldwell Community College. Auto body work. Yeah, I've completed 3 projects. I got 1 total. And I'm working on 2 more. But I'm really enjoying it. These old antique cars carry a big high price. They do. If you go to these auto shows, you see it. But does anyone have any questions about, I don't like to bore you, long drawn out, commitment. Do you have any questions? I'm sure somebody's got to ask them one. Did we have any black aces? Yes, we did have. We didn't get the credit. black aces. If you shot down over 5, you were an ace. That's right. A lot of medals. And I said we accomplished a lot. Records to never be broken because we'll never see another war like we fought. We had aircraft we called 700 miles an hour. Ooh, that's a lot of speed. Today we got the 16s that go 1,600 miles an hour. And maybe 50,000, 60,000 feet. We could only go to about 30,000. And the more firepower, longer range and what have you. But but the computers today, there won't be more aircraft flown. There'll be pilotless aircraft. They'll be monitored by computers to the target and back. And there won't be any sidewinders coming upstairs after you because there's no heat. They eliminate the heat factor. So we've made a lot of progress. In one way we've made a lot, but some of them we've made retrogress in morals. We can lose everything we have if you don't put God in front and have morals and standards. Teach those children right from wrong. When they're wrong, do the same thing to them that my mother and father did to me. They put it on me. I wouldn't do that anymore. I knew what they meant. They could look at me, I'd sit down and be quiet. That's what they meant. But you come up with this modern day now, Johnny, don't do that no more. I'm gonna tell your dad. You carry his behind up with a belt. Let him call the police. Go ahead and call the police when they come. I'm gonna tell them what I've done, and I'll do it again. You respect it. You don't sit back and curse you like I've heard some Christian parents. I was in law enforcement. I think I'm out of the military. I just can't do nothing with that child. Yes, you can. If she was such a child. If you have to feed and sleep that child's supposed to mind you, and you not mind that child. And you can pass this on to your friends. So is there any questions? I'm just down to earth, tell it like it is.
Do you still have a question?
Did you receive any medals?
Did I receive any? Nah. I come back up. Training thing, was this some of my bottom squadron. P-25 trip. After we finished, so we went to the nation. So the boss stayed over the border and sent to Georgia Island.
Were you an ace water bar?
No, I only got through. I didn't make grades. Then I got down in Austin. My field line was back in Kent. Got the field line out. And I field out. Put in the carriage, like over about 2.5 months. Training on. We were going through that, so that's it.
Mr. Shea, would you answer those questions again here so the whole audience can hear?
It's kind of hard to understand me too with this bad cold. All right, miss.
Now that you've served as one of the famous Tuskegee Airmen, do you feel that our armed service now there's enough African Americans to fly higher? Feel now that you serve as one of the Tuskegee Airmen, we have enough American African firefighters in the armed services today?
We do have, because a lot of them coming out of college in the ROTC. Through the ROTC. But we couldn't even get a job as a commercial pilot, even though we had aces who come off that. I couldn't even get a job driving a bus because I was black. So it's been 20 years since you had your first black airline pilot. Even though we had a number of black aces who were well qualified, both single and twin engine aircraft. Oh yes, there's great opportunities. See, what we gotta stop saying because I'm black. Don't be black. You mean, you're as good as anyone else. If someone else can be a lawyer, I can be a lawyer. I have a daughter that's a lawyer. She went to Wakefield College too. I had to, somewhat, but she wanted to be on her own. You want to be a bricklayer, you can be a bricklayer. That's what I tell a lot of these fellows. Go to vocational school. Pick up carpentry, plumbing, masonry, what have you. Make money. There's always a need for service. And everybody can be a lawyer or doctor. Instead of paying $1,000 for a set of wheels to own your car, go to vocational school, give them the money, tuition, get in, and take up a new trade. Is there any other questions that you'd like to ask me?
Mr. Shea, can you tell us a little bit about the protest that took place at Freeman Air Force Base in Indiana?
Yeah, yes. That was the 477 Bombardment Squadron. At one time, we as black officers couldn't even go in the officers' club. And that was one of the problems that we had out at Freeman Field. And we had a right to challenge it. Because our tax dollars had been to pay and support the armed forces and all of the federal funding programs. And we were denied, it's like we were down in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, buying manure. And they never had black pilots there before. They were racist. They wanted us to go to the second movie. We're not going to the second movie. We're going to the same movie you go to. And that's what we meant. Morally, we didn't have to argue it for. We have as much right to go in the movie as you have. We were in combat. You were up there with us then. Well, make a difference now. Even in California, we were down in Blackfield, California. And they had signs up that we do not solicit Negro factories. We had to go to the back door to get a sandwich. And we offered everything a man could offer in his country life. Oh, there's a lot of, some of our non-commissioned officers were arrested and put on the chain gang. They had chain gangs back then. And no one to fight for it. That wasn't right. They would lock and arrest them, and the policy that I had down at Craig Air Force Base in Selma, Alabama, they arrested the black airmen, keeping them incarcerated for 3 or 4 or 5 days before they even notified the base. And I was very outspoken on that issue. That's why I was passed over twice in promotion. Because I do not believe in wrong, I believe in right. That's what my mother and father taught me. Right? But I'm history. I'm going back to the T Model 4 days. I'm not talking about BMs. You get to ride in the car when I was a kid coming up? That was a great honor.
Do you think that y'all beginning to stand up for your rights and demanding that you receive the respect you deserve led anything towards the movement to the awareness of the rights of the African American people and the desegregation in the schools and everywhere else?
Well, I feel like this. We are human beings, the same as you are.
Exactly.
All of us are born and created the same. Even though we don't all conduct ourselves the same. Sometimes old Johnny Smith down there across the railroad track will come to be a great man. And Johnny Smith on top of the hill there might end up incarcerated. But we have to work just as hard as little Johnny down here as the one up there. And little Johnny didn't have the same opportunities. And that's one problem that we're having in America today. When you hear a suicide every 17 minutes, that's alarming. It's one of the highest in the world. Let's find out what's the cause and what's the cure. narcotics itself is one of the causes. And the little fellow out there with a nickel bag or a dime bag, he's not the one to get it. Go get that big one, you'll stop it. If we went on and stopped it, I'm sure we could stop narcotics. But it's a big business. It's destroying our culture, our youth. Set people up on the hill, or maybe more than what they do down the bottom. Because they have more money. I'd say if we could eliminate that like we did Hitler, eradicate it, we'd have a much better culture and less problems. We wouldn't need to build and incarcerate people into a jail like they're doing today. We need to find a cure and to educate them. That's what we need, is a cure. I'm hoping it's not going too far enough to find a cure for that. We found a cure for Hitler with bombs, guns, but we can't use that in the drug war. And we're losing it. We're losing the drug war. Too much money. Any other questions?
Mr. Shade, over here's the question.
Mr. Shea, my husband was in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam, all three. But during World War II, he was discriminated against also.
What?
He was discriminated against also because the signs, I have one of the original signs that says sailors and dogs not allowed. I also have another sign that says sailors bringing girls into business, paying to dance. I tried to rent a room, apartment in Norfolk, Virginia, and they would not rent it to me because my husband was in the service. And this was when they were fighting for these people's lives. So when I say,
It's not the pigmentation of the skin. It's just the idea he was in the military.
yeah, so they were discriminated.
And the ones who wrote it couldn't even spell fight. They didn't know fight. They didn't know what fight was like.
See, yeah, you say,
They meant with sin.
yeah, but it's, I don't know what it is, but I know that you protected a lot of people. I know my husband did too. And it just really.
Because I would tell the men, I don't care if you're white, black, green, blue, or brown.
And I'm gonna tell
Same
you,
way it's written to you was written
I'm
to
gonna
me.
say it here, now something else that hurts. I go to school here. I have granddaughters and grandsons in colleges. They did not close for Veterans Day, but they closed for Martin Luther King Day.
It's not right.
Not right.
If the people would go to the veteran hospital, not too many of us left, but from Korea and Vietnam. You see the men with no legs, no arms, no mind, no one cared for them. It's pathetic. And those are the men who, like my father was gassed in World War I, he was never the same. He was 18 years of age when he got gas.
My husband was told when the hydrogen bombs were set off, and he died from a rare cancer cause from that. But he was not told that. His records were marked,
Or was it Los Alamos?
and we talk.
That was his song, yeah.
And his records.
They never
his records
admitted it.
were marked with massive doses of radiation. And so he got sick there. They were told they had chloroquine.
Well, a lot of people died from cancer in the program R&D and what have you, research and development, radiation, and they tell them that wasn't the cause of their death, you know, just keep making it.
So I just wanted to tell you I relate to you.
Any more?
Mr. Shea, do you have any information on the Germans' procession of the Tuskegee Airmen?
We had some black pilots that was captured, and with my understanding, they experimented on them. They did experiment on them. The main thing was to develop a pure white race. That was Hitler's conception. Nothing but pure white. If you were mixed Polish and Irish, out. If you were black, you were out. You wanted a pure white race. So they wanted to find out why. I think we're all adults. The blacks are masculine, strong, like baseball players, basketball players, sexually. They wanted to find out what caused that. And they experimented on it. And they put them to sleep. They never did know what happened, but After the surgery, they were never the same when they come back. It's true. They did experiment on some of me.
Was your character depicted in the movie? Was one of the characters you in the movie?
No, I have to monitor it. They showed where Mrs. Roosevelt was flying with a cadet, but she didn't. That was Charles Flowers, a graduate of A&T College. He was a better cadet than Magoon, the instructor, was an instructor. And he was the first black cadet captain of a class. They watched him out the morning of graduation. No reason to watch him out. No recall. A lot of my buddies washed out. They should have made it. I knew they were there.
How close was the movie?
Some of it was true. With Train, yeah, he was shot down. And it was pretty good. I'd say, I couldn't say too much after 50 years of getting a banking. 50 years getting a banking, don't say nothing, be quiet. But I think it's narrowly pretty good. It didn't show that one Benjamin Davis, the character that played the part of Benjamin Davis. Benjamin Davis, arrow, straight, national. 100% West Point, oh yeah. Strict discipline. And he was well versed on the subjects.
Mr. Shade, in your opinion, what was the single most difficult mission you flew? And could you take us kind of through that?
This come from, I think, the loss of my hearing. Flying tight targets, rapid gunfire. In my later years, I've been impaired my hearing. And what were you saying?
What was in your opinion, what was the single most difficult mission that you flew, and kind of could you take us through that?
The long haul to Berlin. That's when they strapped the extra gas fuel tanks on the P-51s. We refused to fly the P-40s because, number one, they did not have the range, the firepower, the maneuverability, the altitude, and the Germans could pull up to 22,000 and come in on you and wipe you out. And so we transited P-51s with Rolls-Royce engines with the range and etc. We were ready for combat. We were the first group on what they call the long haul from Iran down to Berlin, bombing mission, flying P-51s. So I think it's about 8 went down on that run. But we had another group come in behind us, 103rd. So they've done a pretty good job. Our job was mostly bomb oil well. We called that the fuel line supplies. And that was a dangerous job where the flak was all around it. Between ground, fire, and flak, the German aircraft. But they figured that once we destroyed the fuel lines, that would destroy them, that especially like in 44, around Leningrad and Stalingrad, so cold. We had pictures of men standing out with bayonets at each other. The Germans couldn't get the aircraft started. We did get ours started using putt-putts. So we had the advantage over them. But if Hitler had not opened up that second front against Russia, we might have lost this war. Because they had taken over England on their around the clock. France had taken that over. Poland, Austria, all of that area was taken over. Any more questions?
There's a question over on the other side, Mr. Manager.
Don't get me plenty physical exercise, that's good. I do very well, I had bypass. A month to a sudden, the war nerves. So, who's that have a question? Okay.
Is your tradition forced to fly front or in the back?
You mean on combat? front. Then one of his chickens flying back. The Germans are too hot for them. And I can't blame them for nothing. But when they put us up front line, we had to go. Oh, yeah.
Were you forced to fly up front all the time?
But we prepared it. They escort the bombers. That was our job. We take care of business with it, but there were 2 more squadrons in behind. And we took care of business. Now, 1,137 German aircraft destroyed on the ground. So evidently done a pretty good job.
Do you believe you had not had your faith in God to go as far as you did?
You can't do nothing without God. Never. We'll give you the air, the breathe, the life, the food, nothing. My mother's 104 years of age. I guess I was 78 years of age. Doctors told my mother, my father, we've done all we can do for her. And back in those days, doctors didn't have the know-how, technology to surgery. We were going to have to remove her left breast. And I remember how the people, white and black, come to home. They sang and they prayed. My mother said she went to bed that Friday night. She felt something go out of her. So Dad took her on to the surgery. Monday morning, upon preliminary, hell, it might have happened that long. God healed me. My mother got off that table and walked back home. Their doctors did all they could do. So that just goes to show you about faith. I had propane gas. I had to go shopping day before yesterday. And so I had my friend, a lady come by. My mother was out waiting for me to come back. It sprang a leak. It started to blaze. The lady called the fire marshal, they come out and cut it off. If that fire had gone through the wall, near those tanks, and blown up, everybody would been gone. That's the power of God.
How did you come about being able to fly?
Well, see, back in those days, we didn't have much of a choice. Going to school to be an engineer, no, I had to only great uncle was a doctor in Illinois. But anything besides being a teacher or preacher, we didn't have much of a chance. No chance of getting hired. A friend of mine was an engineer, graduated at UCLA. He got a job at Pick 7. He was an engineer. He later come to be a pilot. So I set my goals. I wasn't going on, back in those days, you'd make what, 50, 75 cents an hour? You never get ahead. So I said I want to go to college. What do you want to major in? I didn't know. That's all I know. Because we didn't have a guidance counselor to test our abilities in the center. So I majored in industrial education. That's what my mother suggested, by her being a teacher. And my father was more teacher and doing that straight while he was in the Army. So that's how I got involved in it. I didn't think I'd ever get into place, but I'd take care of my mind anyway, it'd be what was right.
How many people were in your division?
We had approximately between the 477 and the Tuskegee Airman, we had 30 or 4,000 men. We had the P-47, P-51, the B-25s, the A-26s, we had 5 squadrons altogether. And after we come back, they didn't know what to do with us. We had more second and first lieutenants than they had in the whole Air Force. But you could count the captains on one hand. They get the promotions. Until after anniversary come about, then we began to get slots and promotions. But after we come back to the States, they didn't know what to do, so they sent us from base to base. From Minnesota, Indiana, Walterboro, South Carolina, Tuskegee, Lockbourne, Tuskegee, Michigan. This is a group that's kept us moving, you know. So when Truman integrated, that's how it come about.
How did they decide who would be the fighter pilots? What kind of tests did you have to go through to be able to do?
Well, depending upon you're pretty average while you were in flight training. But your height and your weight and all that. We didn't have too many tall, not in the fighter group, but in the bomber group, we had the tallest men. We have one little fellow from North Carolina called him Peachside. He was only about, like that on me. He got shot down in Korea, got killed. The little people that were getting out. Now I can tell you more like the first black 4-star general was General Daniel James. He was a graduate of Tuskegee, very good airman, very dedicated and devoted. And he was the first and only black 4-star general. But since then they've had promotions and I don't even know about it. I really enjoyed it. Thanks so much.
On behalf of Western Piedmont, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Shea, for providing our funding. Thank you, Cindy Calloway. Cindy's probably there she is, for helping us pull all this together. I have truly enjoyed this, and I'm sure all of you have. Thank you for coming out and sharing with us today.
How you doing, Nikki?